So, just starting out in the Grenadier to head off on its first trip off-road. So, this screen here is one of the off-road screens. As you can see, shows your tyre pressure, temperature, oil temperature, gearbox, and transfer case temperature. Probably a little hard to read, but yeah, I've literally just jumped on the freeway, heading down just south of Lake Buffalo there to an area that I know well, to give the Grenadier its first off-road run, and it's just interesting to see how long it takes for these tyre pressures to change from that 25-26 degrees tyre temperatures, I should say, 25-26 degrees as they warm up. Gee, this thing holds the road well. Gonna have to watch those keys there. That's maybe not the best place for them. But anyway, I'll come back to you guys in a bit. You can see already the tyre temperatures are starting to come up, and you can see the pressures change as well. So we're not far out of Myrtleford. Been on the road now, I guess 40 minutes probably. So you can see the tyre temps are already starting to come up from that 25-26 degrees to nearly 40 degrees, some of them. So yeah, it really doesn't take long. I mean, the oil temp, gearbox and transfer case are reasonably stable. I wouldn't expect the transfer case to heat up yet because we're not really utilising that, and yeah, consequently the tyre pressures have come up between 2 to 4 psi as well, with the increase in temperature. So just goes to show that 4 to 5 psi rule for warm tyres versus cold tyres is probably about right for most tyres. So yeah, after getting off the bitumen, pulled into Lake Buffalo, popular spot for us to stop and air down, which is exactly what we did this time. Just aired down to 25 psi and getting ready to head down the eastern side of Lake Buffalo here on the Yarrabulla Creek Track to head on to the rest of the Yarrabulla Creek Track. Bit of an old favourite of mine, certainly a track I've driven many times, and I was keen to drive some tracks that I was very familiar with just to get used to the handling of the Grenadier. Completely different vehicle to the 70, coil sprung instead of leaf sprung in the rear, solid axle front and rear, but an 8-speed automatic transmission, so quite a different ball game there. Now down the eastern side here of Lake Buffalo, there is some leasehold land, so there are some gates here. As you can see there, it says no camping, privately leased, so you can't camp in along here, and you do need to stop and close those gates behind you. Worth keeping an eye out for cattle along here as well. And there's a couple of little stream crossings. They can sneak up on you. I did find this trip though that they had been filled with a bit of gravel. There's the first one. Good test for the Grenadier's brakes. Now, different times on this trip, you're going to hear the engine in the Grenadier revving quite a lot. That's not the vehicle, that's the driver. The whole purpose of this trip was to learn to drive the vehicle off-road, and being an auto, I thought I was going to need to manually select the gears a lot. You really don't need to unless the terrain is exceptionally tough. The programming in the auto of the Grenadier is fantastic. It will hold gears for you when descending or climbing. A few of those cows that I mentioned earlier. But yeah, so, and the other thing I had to learn was, you know, where I'd typically been second in the 76 because it's only a 5-speed manual box, the Grenadier really wanted to be in third or fourth because it's an 8-speed. Never good when they take off like that, you never quite know where they're going to go. those little stream crossings, such as it is today, pretty dry. So this was filmed just before Christmas of 2024, so about the 21st of December. Just snuck out into the high country for a quick day trip to get the tyres a bit dirty and have a bit of a practice run, because it was only about 9 days away from heading off to the Flinders Ranges. So just coming through the end of that first section of the Yarrabulla Creek Track, where we turn right onto the SEC access track at the eastern end there of the Goldie Spur. Now look, I didn't put a map up for this one because I've done multiple videos on these tracks, and I've done the maps many times. So just coming to where the SEC track does its 180 and heads back towards Buckland Valley, and we're continuing straight ahead. Now, I can't actually remember if I've done this track since it's been refurbed by Forestry, but... So we've just started the Yarrabulla Creek Track proper. This is one of the off-road screens for the Grenadier. Shows you the attitude of the vehicle, so the tilt side to side and front to back. So it'll be interesting to see on some of these steeper sections on this track what that ends up looking like. So just in high range all-wheel drive at the moment. Don't even have the center diff lock locked at this point, so just driving it like an all-wheel drive. This initial section's pretty easy, nothing like it used to be. So the tyre pressure monitoring only lets you reset the desired pressures when they're cold. So when I let the air out, they were still too warm, so it's actually warning me. You can see there that my tyre pressures are too low, because it's thinking that I should be running road pressures. That's a little bit annoying. I'll have to chat to people and see if there's a way around that, but at least it doesn't beep at you and make noise and really annoy you. Just flashes up orange every so often on the screen, which is you know, not the end of the world. Steep little pinch through here that's pretty much every time I drove through there in the 76, the tow bar would hit. The departure angle on the Grenadier I believed was going to be better, and that was my first evidence that it certainly is a better departure angle. You can see here there's some ruts starting to form, but most of this track is just so different to how it used to be. If you look at some of my older videos, it used to be just mud tracks through here and bog holes, and just, yeah, it's so different now. Yeah, so a bit of driver error there. So I had the car in drive rather than manually selectable mode, and I've just hit the stick to move it up or down a gear for the climb, and knocked it into neutral. So super effort there from the driver. And as I said earlier, the car's probably revving more than it needs to, because I'm still figuring out what the right gear to select is. And heading down one of the steeper sections. So this is in the Grenadier Auto, first gear, low range, manually selected. It's 18 to 20% grade, and this thing is just crawling down. This is not even with hill descent control.
Slowly catches up to you. So
yeah, this thing's geared pretty well. So yeah, just coming up on that first water crossing on the Yarrabulla Creek Track proper. Nice little crossings. they've never been deep. It's just a nice little stream. Gets the tyres wet, that's about as far as it goes usually. And that first one's a very gentle entrance and exit. Tree down across the track here, and an even narrower path than usual cut through on the left hand side there, just off the track. Just looking at that, debating whether my new car is going to fit through there. I decided it would. Took that slow and steady though. Wasn't interested in doing any panel damage the first time I take the car off road. And just coming up on another crossing here. And I've just dropped in the capture from the internal camera.
Steep.
So you can see
Nice steep little approach, this one.
it's heading just over 20 degrees on the approach here, and there's also a little bit off camber. That was one of the collision detection sensors going off because I haven't actually put the Grenadier in proper off-road mode that disables all those sorts of things. So yeah, live and learn. It's great that they have a way to turn all that stuff off.
And for me, it's like 1% ability.
You're not the Lone Ranger.
So just coming up on the next crossing. Again, I'll just drop that capture in from the internal camera. Not quite as steep an approach. And yeah, that collision sensor going off again. None of that happens if you actually just take the step of putting the Grenadier
The back end of that's really light.
into off-road mode.
Like slowly lifting that rear wheel tyre.
Yeah, well, I've got nothing in the back.
So yeah, Dave was just saying one of the rear tyres is lifting now and then, and that's as much as anything a function of there is no weight, literally nothing in the back at this point, not even a fridge. Fortunately for the Flinders trip upcoming, I fully intended to be taking the Drifter Dot, so I wasn't going to need to rush and try and put some kind of solution in the back of the car too much. I think I did get the upright mounted initially. So yeah, another little crossing there, and getting through those crossings and starting to get onto the steeper sections of the track, and yeah, just confirming here that yep, if you're looking for a vehicle with a worse turning circle than a 70 series, that would be the Grenadier. So they've set the steering up to be very robust, so it doesn't turn to very acute angles. So these sort of switchbacks, very hard to make on a single lock turn most of the time. And again, the engine revving there, that's a function of me having manual mode, not changing gears when I should. There's no need for it to rev quite that much. That's probably me sitting in second, because that's what I would have been doing in the 76, whereas with an 8-speed auto it's much more comfortable in third or fourth.
Before the hill.
So sitting in third gear, low range.
So this is what we used to call the hill before the hill.
Oh, that's good then.
And that was because this, although a good long steep hill, it was typically not as difficult as the one that comes after it. But these days, they're both in pretty good condition. You can see here, a little bit over a 20-degree climb. Grenadier's just doing it easy.
Third gear, low range. This thing is just eating it. Yeah, no, you definitely want to be in low for this stuff. Alrighty, let's see how steep this one is. You can watch on the tilt gauge there. Alright, we'll drop back, I think, drop back to third. Seems to like climbing in third.
And if you can make that out, there's an M next to the number 3, which
in second in 76, but you know, very different gearing in this with the 8-speed transmission.
And that M denotes that the transmission is in the manual mode. So I've manually selected third gear, low range, and we're climbing.
And it's just eating it up, no locker, just traction control. 22, 23 degrees, 24 degrees.
So yeah, good steady climb this one. A little bit loose, but nothing like what it used to be.
Just climbing up out of the ruts where some of those sharper rocks are. 25 degrees.
There are some ruts starting to form now on this section of track, and I'm sure over time
temps like on that.
It'll get back to something like what it used to.
87.
Now 100 plus degrees on the oil temp in the Grenadier is apparently perfectly fine and very, very normal.
Piece of cake.
And you can see the standard engine temperature gauge there on the right. That hasn't moved off mid-range.
Love that hill.
It's funny because all hills, it's weird how when you're looking up at it, it looks massive, and then once you start it, it's not as steep. So it's a weird feeling.
Yeah, no, very true. So the next one's just as steep as that one. But we go down first.
So yeah, heading down a short section before we get stuck into the next hill, which again, this used to be fairly rutted and a reasonably difficult climb. It's not that way at the moment. You can see this descent. It's about a 10 to 15 degree descent until it flattens out at the bottom, obviously. And you can see the tyre pressures keep popping up there in orange on the right hand side next to the transmission indicator. Certainly a very comfortable and easy car to drive off-road, being an auto, and an auto that is really well programmed, that doesn't run away from you on descents, even in drive.
So actually not as steep, 2016. Maybe the tail end's a bit steeper. See if it gets to 24 or 25 like the last hill.
Certainly a good steady climb. Obviously a bit steeper when you climb over those washout sections designed to push the water off the track. And just about at the top of this section now as well. And look, these ridgeline tracks through here, they never get old for me. I always enjoy the views. Up along here you've got Mount Buffalo to the left. And as I said, this was filmed about 6 months ago, just before Christmas of 2024. And the track was still in very good condition at that time. So yeah, nice steady run along this ridge section. And I was just enjoying the day out in the Grenadier, to be quite honest. Enjoying the high country, enjoying the vehicle. It was a cracking drive. There's a lot more to come on this trip. But today's video will end when we get to the end of the Yarrabulla Creek Track and it joins up with the Yarrabulla Track. So another good little climb here. I think at this point I've got the car back in drive and just letting it select its own gear, which works perfectly fine in the Grenadier. You know, in the Padge, driving the auto on any sort of hill, it was always good to manually select the gears, particularly when descending. Much less required in the Grenadier, and they just seem to have got the auto programming for off-road so well done. It really doesn't need you second guessing it. Just love those ridgeline views. The camera angle doesn't always capture the whole lot of it. You can see a little bit more there off to the right, down towards Buckland Valley and Wanagata and the rest of the high country, and Mount Buffalo to the north or to the left of screen. And yeah, while it does undulate a fair bit, the last sort of 5 to 8 k's of Yarrabulla Creek Track are very much a ridgeline track, that's for sure. and we're just about getting to the end here of the Yarrabulla Creek Track where it joins the Yarrabuck Track. We'll pick up the rest of this trip in the next video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this taste of taking the Grenadier Off Road. I certainly enjoyed the drive and look forward to bringing the rest of this trip to you in the subsequent videos before we head to the Flinders Ranges. As always, thanks for watching, and like this video if you liked it, and leave some comments down below. Thanks again.